Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining our panel on hybrid work and how it relates to our company value of belonging. To start us off, I would love to introduce you to our panelists, but we'll have them introduce themselves. So, Marc, why don't we start with you? Can you tell me a little bit about your history with WatchGuard and what hybrid work looks like to you?
Yeah, first, hey everyone. Marc Laliberte. I'm currently Director of Security Operations at WatchGuard. And man, that's a long answer of a question for what I'd like to say. But really, I started at WatchGuard 12 years ago when I still lived in the Seattle area, was commuting into the office every single day. And like many folks, when the pandemic hit and our office effectively shut down, I was one of the team members that moved off to warmer pastures than the Seattle area. I now call Austin, Texas my home, which I guess I kind of overshot warm and ended up on the surface of the sun, it feels like. But I'd say I'm one of the folks that has made use of WatchGuard's hybrid environment and flexible work environment really as fully as I possibly could.
Excellent. Thank you, Marc. Nandi, how about you?
Yeah, hi. My name's Nondi Johnson. I'm a recruiter here at WatchGuard. I actually started with WatchGuard back in, what was it, 2016? I am a boomerang, so I've left and since come back. I rejoined WatchGuard. So I was with WatchGuard back when we were in office, was living in Seattle, living my best life in Seattle. And then when I left, the job that I had transferred me to Los Angeles, and then I had to move to Texas. Like Marc, it was very hot. But I was able to move to Texas to help care for my father-in-law, and that's where I rejoined WatchGuard as a remote employee. And it was very, very beneficial at the time. I was able to care for my ailing father-in-law and just be there, while we carried him home. So it was very, very beneficial to my family and I.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Nagore, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Good afternoon from Bilbao. I work as a controller in the financial department. I'm a Panda Watch Guardian. I have been working at Panda for 13 years, more or less, when WatchGuard bought it in 2020. So now 17 years, more or less. I started as an accountant, and then at the end of 2019, I changed from the accounting department to the controlling department. So you can imagine 2020 was a challenging year for me, not only for the pandemic, but with all these changes. And hybrid work for me is an opportunity to balance my work and family life. And it really makes my life easier and less stressful.
I love that. Thank you so much. So I think hybrid work means something a little bit different to each of us. Some of you, Marc, you're fully remote and travel quite a bit for work. Nandi, you now spend some time in the office, and Nagore, I know that the team goes into the office on a periodic basis. Could you each tell me what that hybrid work arrangement looks like to you when you're in the office, when you're seeing your peers, what your day-to-day looks like? Marc, let's go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, so I was actually in an interesting position where even before the pandemic, half my team was already remote. And so we were already used to having some folks have to call in to meetings. And unfortunately, back then it was like the on prem people at the headquarters. We'd all go up into a meeting room, and then all of our remote employees would just dial in as faceless voices on the call bridge. One thing I've actually really liked about our approach to really hybrid first is it kind of leveled the playing field where now all of us will join up on video calls for our team meetings or one-on-ones. Everyone's on an equal playing field instead of just the voiceless or faceless voice on a phone line. We all get to see each other now. So that's really been a benefit for us. I'd say my day to day, I love my commute now of the 50 feet from my bedroom to the coffee machine in the kitchen, and then another 25 feet from there into my office. I absolutely love that I get to welcome my kids home when they come home from school since I'm situated right by our front door. But like I do miss like some of the aspects of being able to go into the headquarters, especially pre-pandemic. I loved being able to go out for lunch randomly with my friends from the marketing team. or run into one of our product managers in the hallway and get a quick status update on something that I had had on the back of my head. But I mean, the reality is the pandemic changed a ton of things. And even if I was physically in Seattle, I don't think there's any going back to that type of activity or relationship in the office, just because you never know who's going to be there on any given day. It's just different, not necessarily worse, but very different. I think from my perspective, I love that I don't have to commute. I would never want to go back to that hour there and hour back that I used to have to get to the office. But I do absolutely miss that face-to-face interaction with folks on a regular basis.
Thanks, Marc. That's great. And I think that you really touched on a key point about how hybrid work has helped us to enable people that are fully remote to really engage in a better and different way, because it puts us all, like you said, on a level playing field. Nondi, having been in a remote environment, and now if you can talk both about what it was like when you were remote and now what your hybrid work arrangement looks like and how that feels for you.
Yeah. So when I was remote, it was, waking up, hopping on the computer. I unfortunately have my, office in my room. So it's like I get out of bed, get ready, and then come to the desk. But, it's very much centered around just being in front of my computer. And I talk to people all day long, which is nice. I'm very, very personable. I love meeting new people and talking to people. So that really helps. So now the hybrid aspect of my role, I'm able to kind of help transition as we move into the new office. So I've been able to help Milana in that. And it's been really nice, like changing pace, being able to go in and see people that you wouldn't see on a daily basis. It's just, being present in front of people and kind of breaking up your daily routine. I really, really enjoy change. So I think that really helps me kind of just move forward.
That's great. Thank you. And Nagore, I know that the team, the finance and accounting team in Bilbao is primarily remote, but that you guys have a great structure where you do meet generally all as a team on a periodic basis in the office. Can you tell us a little bit about how you guys are set up?
Yes, in our case, we went from nothing and something that it feel like an impossible, because here it wasn't very common to work from home, and to being at home, working from home, and wasn't able to go to the office due to the pandemic, and now with hybrid work, we have the perfect mix, I think. We can stay at home, but our team, the financial department, we have established to go to the office twice a month. We go 2 Tuesdays a month, and in some way, in this way, we keep alive some old habits, like have a pincho in the morning and things like that. So it's wonderful, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So one of the benefits to me about hybrid work is it gives people the ability to not have to choose between work and family. For me specifically, that means that I can help get my kids up and ready in the morning. I can walk them to the school bus. You'll often see one of my kids on a call with me, whether I'm brushing my daughter's hair or working on a project with my son. They're here, and everybody that I work with knows my kids, and it's just become an accepted part of our work world where our families are part of our work life. And that is a real benefit to me. Can you guys talk about some of the benefits that you see of hybrid work and how you allow that to play into your day-to-day job? Nondi, let's go ahead and start with you.
Yeah. So my partner also works from home, so it's been nice to spend more time with her. And then I have a dog. He's usually like right behind me, sitting on the bed. I had to kick him out though because he was on one this morning. But it's been really nice just being able to be with them and spend more time with them. So but then when I do go into the office and I come home and seeing how excited he is to see me, like he's never seen me before, like that just adds excitement. So yeah.
Excellent. Nagore, tell us about you.
Yeah, in my case, I have 2 kids also, and it as Marc, my commute took me 2 hours each day in the past. So when I was working in the office every day, to be able to take my kids to the school or to not get home very late. I had a reduction in my working hours, but I actually it wasn't the solution because I felt that I wasn't 100% anywhere. So when I was with my children, I was thinking that it's late and I had to take a bus. And when I was working, I am thinking how much time I have to finish this, or if something happened, or just when I was about to leave the office, I had to choose between leaving the office with a sense of failure in some way, or staying in the office and get home very, very late. And now with hybrid work, all of these things have disappeared in some way. I have time, I work full time, and I can take my children to the school. And when I am working, and I can focus on the work, and I can attend meetings late, and yes, it's totally different.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Marc, tell us about how this helps bridge your work and personal life.
I think that this is absolutely my favorite part about working fully remotely in my case. And that, so my wife is a nurse. And so before I came into the picture, she was a single mom with like long hours and irregular shifts. And what that meant was for our kids, it was extremely difficult for them to have after school activities because she couldn't reliably get them there or back. And even when we were first together and I was still going into the office, that was still the case because Monday through Friday, I'm at headquarters, 8 a.m. to 4 or 5 p.m. or so. So by working fully remotely now, like it's been great that we can get them enrolled in after school activities. I can work my schedule around, when I need to take them to tennis lessons or their art school. And it's been just great for our family as a whole of just opening up other opportunities that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to have with two working parents. So we've definitely capitalized on that. And I think everyone in my household is way happier that I spend most of my day hanging out in this office where I'm available to go help out, chauffeur kids around if I need to.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So we've talked a lot about the benefits of hybrid work and how it's really helped us as employees and as a company really value our sense of belonging. But it can't all be positive. And Marc, you touched on a couple of the negative aspects, but can we talk a little bit about some of the difficulties that we have with hybrid work and how it might not help our benefit of belonging? Marc, why don't you kick it off since you touched on this earlier?
I think the one that always stands out to me the most is when I hop on a meeting with like a team that I haven't really interacted with for a while. And I realize that there's folks on here that I've now gone months without ever seeing or talking to that I used to see every single day when I went into headquarters. And it's still a little almost jarring for me sometimes where I'm like, oh man, Tracy, I've not talked to you in forever. How are you? And to counter that, like I always make sure I pencil out enough time at the start of meetings just to catch up with whatever I missed on what's been going on with some of my coworkers and friends' lives. That has been my biggest challenge, though, is just I'm luckily in a spot where, as a manager, like I, for better or worse, spend like 3/4 of my day on meetings, and so I still get like regular interaction with various teams, but just folks that I used to be able to see every day, I go a very long time without seeing them. That's my big issue. The other slightly negative downside is you do genuinely lose out of some of that like office magic of, like I mentioned earlier, running into a product manager in the hallway and being able to like get a quick status update on something. Like now, by being fully remote, I have to be aware of like communications that I want to have and like proactively try and get a hold of someone on Teams or in a meeting. And it's not necessarily like worse. It's just, again, very different and a different challenge versus the opportunity of just like spontaneous conversation when you'd run into someone.
I think that's a really good point, and that awareness really is key in trying to figure out how can you manage that, and how can you make sure that you're aware of reaching out to the people that you want to make sure that you stay engaged with. Nagore, can you tell us about some of the negative aspects that you have come across and how you've worked through those?
Yes, I think sometimes I can feel less connected with the team than before. Because we have been working together for a long time, and I was used to seeing them every day. And nowadays, even though we have recurrent meetings, sometimes for some reasons we can be 1 or 2 days without speaking, and it's this feeling that I'm not as connected as before. For this reason, it's for me it's super important to go to the office the days that we have established. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Nondi, how about you?
Yeah, I would agree with both Marc and Nagore. So it's like when my schedule is very busy and my team is small. So whenever I am in the office and I feel like I unload a lot at once on the person that I'm seeing. So it's like having to make sure that you reach out to that person on certain things at a certain time, so that you're not just kind of making sure you're not throwing it all on them at once. Um, and planning is important as well. Just making sure that everything is organized on the calendar, because that can get away with you when you're in office working on something completely different, rather than when you're at home working on your normal tasks. So I'd say, to me, that's probably one of the only things that I'm working on, is not unloading everything at once on my my teammate.
Those are some very good considerations of things that you need to be aware of now that we are in a hybrid environment. What are some other ways that you might engage differently with your team or with other people in the organization to help to overcome some of those challenges? Marc, thoughts?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. One of the main benefits is how it leveled that playing field. I feel like my remote employees that were remote before the pandemic, before all of this changed, are way more engaged now with our team because they've become the same as all of us. Like, we all hop on our all team meeting, we all turn on our cameras and get to see each other. And that's been a really great benefit to really making them feel like they're much more of the family than when they were, those folks that just weren't at Seattle, for better or worse. So I've been really happy with that. I will say that I've had to make sure I am more proactive about just checking in on folks as well too. I used to be like, I'd be able to pop into my boss Corey Knockreiner's office periodically throughout the day just to chat about like whatever the latest security or gaming or whatever nerdy hobby we both share, whatever the latest news was on that. And it's been a bit of a challenge now where you don't have that like spontaneous opportunity. You've got to try and connect over what's typically asynchronous, as we call it, like Teams chats, where you don't know if they're even at their desk right now. So taking that into account has been a bit different. But again, I love that at least we all learned from the big change of folks going remotely, folks being hybrid. And it's helped a lot of our communication, in some cases more than it hurt it.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I remember in the before days where being an office employee and going in every day, you never would get the same impact from employees that were remote. They would be on a call, but their voice, they would get spoken over, or they wouldn't be able to really feel the room and understand the context of the room. And I think that this has really empowered people that are remote on a regular basis to have a bigger impact on our organization. Nondi, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I want to preface this by saying this is like my first remote role, really. So I've really had to learn moving forward, as just with all the changes. And one thing that helps me and my team stay organized is meetings scheduled like 2 times a week, just making sure that we're covering the things that we need to cover, because in recruiting things change daily. So just making sure that we're on the same page on certain things, and you know carrying forward what needs to be, for the week to week basis. So meeting 2 times a week really helps us stay on track.
Great, thank you. Nagore, what thoughts do you have?
In my case, I will say that Teams was my great discovery at the beginning of teleworking during the pandemic, because in the past we used Skype, but in different way and not internally. And we use Skype, but for example, we didn't make short calls with the camera on, so it's very different. And if I had to contact someone from a subsidiary in Europe or in America, I used to email that person, and now I find it colder than Teams. I think Teams is more personal, and it's more natural to ping by Teams that send an email or something like that. And sometimes I feel by email by Teams, I am like I'm chatting in person with this person, and this allows me to meet better and more people. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree completely. And even corresponding, Nagore, with you directly on Teams, I feel like you and I are able to have a different relationship over Teams and with that casual chat than we would be through some of the formality that email seems to bring. So I agree that it is a fantastic tool. Any parting thoughts? I really appreciate all of your time, and I think that this has been very insightful. Any parting thoughts on how hybrid work has helped you to be a better person or a better employee? Marc?
If I can go first, yeah, I love that now. Like when I hop on my computer in the morning and hop on whatever my first meeting is at the crack of dawn, I'm basically welcoming people into my home. Like I've had webinars I've been on where one of my kids brought me a snack right in the middle of it. I love, Katy, your example of when I hop on early morning meetings with you, getting to see your kid want to come hang out with you. And it all makes it feel like a lot more personal than when we went into an office and, we put on our office persona and yeah, we made friends and like acquaintances with coworkers, but there was that clear separation between work Marc and home Marc. And now it's all kind of merged together and you guys just get Marc. And I don't know, I love that part about it.
I love that part too. And I think you said it very well, that it allows us to really be our authentic selves. And we see, it's not this face that you put on when you go into the office, but you get to see our day-to-day lives. You get to see your families coming in. You get to see the mess of the spaces that we're working in or the change of decor. And I think it just really brings a nice personal aspect to our lives. Nondi, parting thoughts?
I would piggyback off Marc. I really love welcoming my team into my home and just having the flexibility to work from home with my partner, with my dog, hanging out. But I also really love going into the office and having the option to go into the office and spend time with people there. And I think that it's very invaluable. So,
thank you, Nagore.
Yes, I agree. Totally agree with Nandi and with Marc. And I will also add that I have the feeling that we are not only open our homes to work, but also open the work from to our homes. In my case, for example, with my children, I can see how they look at me working, and they can see how work and how focus on something or how hard I work to achieve something. And I think it's a good example for them. And because sometimes in this way they can be aware that I can do other things besides giving orders and finding those things at home or something like that. I'm not only their mother. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic too. You're absolutely right. That ability for our families to see what we do on a day-to-day basis, and in your case and in my case, giving our children that good example of what we do and what it means, and what we are outside of who they see just as their moms. That's fantastic. Thank you all so much for this. I love hybrid work, and I love that it seems as though we all agree that it really helps support our company value of belonging. So with that, thank you all for watching, and we look forward to hearing from you more.
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.